honored to support this year's Women of Power Summit. We have long supported organizations whose mission is to empower and equip women with the confidence and resources they need to excel in this 21st century economy. For many years, we have worked alongside numerous wonderful organizations to help them fulfill their mission, including support for Girls in Science, Society of Women Engineers, Rise Up for Youth Girls Program, Girls on the Run, YWCA, Girl Scouts, and that's just to name a few. Our consumer products business also understands the importance of diversity and launched the Strength Has No Gender campaign, featuring women leaders from various industries on our Brawny brand, and replaced the Brawny Man with these women on the packaging as well during Women's History Month. Our corporate leadership continues to promote and support the expansion of women's resource groups such as Women's Business Council, the Young Professionals Group, Molex Black Professionals, and Women in Technology. More recently, Georgia Pacific partnered with the Atlanta Women's Work Initiative to connect with experienced, diverse talent pools of women in the metro Atlanta area to bring mothers back into the workplace. At Georgia Pacific, we strive to tap into diverse talent pools to attract employees from different backgrounds and cultures. From a small company that started as Georgia Hardwood Lumber Company in 1927, in a single building in Augusta, Georgia, to 300 locations worldwide, we are now considered one of the North America's leading providers of building products, construction products, packaging, paper, and of course, consumer products. You may be familiar with a few of our more popular consumer brands such as Brawny, Dixie, Quilted Northern, and Vanity Fair. Our MBM guiding principles shape who we are as a company. They challenge us to contribute to the prosperity of communities by removing barriers for all. That is why we support many diverse initiatives which reaffirm our commitment to our guiding principles of respect, stewardship, and mutual benefit. We recognize corporate success as a factor measured by the positive impact felt within the communities that we serve. Diversity and experience throughout the culture of GP makes it a better place. As women, we must stand together as resources to each other. With the lineup of inspirational women we have at the summit this weekend, we are in for a great treat. This weekend, let's celebrate the accomplishments and the achievements of each other. Let's make some Hasu moments. Be sure to catch Myra Ocampo, Art Director for Koch Industries, who will be speaking in the session following this as well, when we learn how to level up early in our careers. We are thrilled that you have decided to join us today. We're looking forward to the panel discussion and your engagement today. And I say, let's get started.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to have a few gents in the house. Thank you for making time out of your calendar to spend a few minutes with these wonderful leaders. We have Cynthia Bowman, we have Lori, we have Eric, and I'm Trudy. I encourage you to go to the app and look at everybody's bio, because every second that we have, we want to use it. And we want to use it wisely. And so we want to have a courageous conversation, but more importantly, we want you guys to walk away with something that you're going to do in order to advance your own gender equality in the workplace. And that's something that you do. We really want to encourage you to start it here. Like, start it at the conference. Don't wait until you go back to your respective scopes of responsibilities. Because you know what will happen is you'll get back into the workplace and you'll have 5,000 fires, and then you'll have every good intention, but it won't translate into anything. So our heart's desire is not only that you hear words of wisdom and insight, but more importantly, that you walk out of that door with a personal commitment for your own strategy to level up. Game on? Game on. All right, so we're going to jump right into this. And Cynthia, I'm going to start with you. I want to deal with the elephant in the room. All right? We know that women have made progress. There would be no argument about that. The truth of the matter is that white women have made a lot of progress. Happy for my sisters, right? But we're not having the conversation about white women being the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action, and we're not talking about how we as women need to have our own relationships and sponsor and advocate for each other. What's the deal?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for being here, and you're absolutely right. When you look at a lot of the progression, particularly around women in the workplace, white women have benefited a lot from the feminist movement, over the years. I think it's really around two specific things. First and foremost is we need behavioral change and accountability for results. And I think if you think about Bank of America as an example, we have specific goals and objectives, not only around women, but around Black African Americans, Hispanic Latinos, and other underrepresented groups. Those growth targets are not only around our board and our management team, which, by the way, our board has 6 women on them. One of those is Hispanic. 2 of those board members are Black African American. We have over 50% women at our company. We've had over 50% for a very long time. 13% of our population is Black African American, which is higher than the Department of Labor and the EEOC Financial Services guidelines. But in order to continue to drive progress, you need to have accountability. So we have scorecards that our board is held accountable to the board. We have scorecards for our management team members, and they're specifically around Black African American growth. We look at the intersectionality between gender and race, which is also important. Many companies are looking at female as one complete bucket. Well, there are many faces of women. The African American, the Hispanic Latino, the Asian, and the white women's stories are very different in terms of hiring, promotions, and retention.
Right.
And if you don't have data that's very specific, data that's very granular, data that is being used in a very transparent way, it's hard to drive progress. And that's one of the things that needs to change when you look at D&I across our companies. The second thing I would say is this. If you look across the industry around diversity and inclusion, we are not at a loss of programs. We have tons of programs where we're trying to dip talent into those programs, which makes the assumption that the issue is the talent. And I'm not suggesting that those programs aren't great, because we also have a lot of initiatives at the bank, but the real issue is driving accountability and a culture of inclusion. So my hypothesis is that the more we spend time on specific granular data, the more we spend time on accountability, the more we hold leaders accountable for progress, the more we will see results in women, but more importantly, women of color.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for that. So I want to level set, and I'm going to do this with each of these wonderful leaders because we want to make sure that you walk away with some practical application. So you need to create your own data. Okay? When you go back to your respective scope of responsibility, sit down with your manager and talk about where do you stand on the succession planning process. Ask that question. Don't be afraid to be bold and ask the question, because somewhere in all the data that you just talked about, your name exists. You need to calibrate to figure out where do I stand and what do I need to do differently so that I can create my own advocacy, and then I can be a part of really transforming the conversation in a different way. And so I love the way you launched into it, Cynthia and Eric. It reminds me of part of the conversation that we were having. There's another dynamic that's contributing to the lack of opportunity. Okay, there is a shift that is happening in the business world. And your chairman, Randall Stevens, put AT&T on notice when he said, and I'm quoting from the New York Times, he said, "You must retool, upgrade, or build new capabilities if you're going to be a part of AT&T's future." Is that correct?
That's correct. And we actually put that into a program that we call Future Ready. But what we did is we were hearing how the new technologies were going to transform our business, things like software-defined networking, Internet of Things, cybersecurity. We started communicating that very clearly to our employee body, that we're changing as a company and you need to change with us if you're going to stay relevant. And a lot of folks hear that, but they think, well, I'm in my niche, I've been doing this job for a long time, this function hasn't changed a great deal in a long while, so surely that's for everyone else and it doesn't really impact me. Well, quite honestly, it did impact a lot of people, and it's impacting them even to today. And so we made sure that employees were given fair warning, and then we gave them the tools and resources to retool themselves. So not just saying, well, cybersecurity, go out and get yourself some. We actually had we had courses, we had certifications, we had degree programs where we provided you free of charge in most cases, the opportunity to go and get yourself ready for the future that you wanted to have. Because we also made it a matter of choice. We didn't say you must, because many people in our company were used to mandatory training plans every year. We said, what's your future look like? You know, at the time we were looking towards 2020. Are you going to be here in 2020? Are you going to be here past 2020? If so, then think about where you'll be, where the company will be, and how those match up. And let's make sure that you're ready and relevant to stay with us if that's what you choose to do.
That's good. So the honest conversation that all of us need to have with ourselves is, how are we equipping ourselves to remain relevant? And we really want to encourage you to get intentional. If you have not been studying what's coming out of Davos, and Davos is the World Economic Forum, that's where all the movers and shakers go to talk about what's going to come down the pike. If you're not paying attention to that, you need to go do it. You need to go check it out. Probably your CEO was there this year speaking about what he or she thinks is going to be coming down the pike for you. And then you need to build your own development plan. So if you don't know anything about artificial intelligence, you're at risk. If you don't know anything about the Internet of Things, you're at risk.
That's
If you don't know anything about coding, you're at risk. If you don't know anything about the digital transformation that's happening, you are at risk. So that plan, that strategy for yourself requires us to be students, okay? We can't keep our heads down and think that even if the data was there, that magically we're going to be found. We need to make sure that we know our value, right? And you know, so I am just so inspired by both of, Eric, I'm inspired by you too, honey.
Thanks.
But both of these women have children, and you know, there's another layer. I mean, there's so many layers that we could talk about, right, that are contributing to the lack of progress. You know, I'm a mom. I have 2 children. In fact, I'm on baby watch, you guys. I'm getting ready to have a grandbaby. Hallelujah. And I think that while the conversation may have grown a little cold about whether or not you can have it all and what choices that you have to make, I think we need to refresh that conversation, because you have driven your own success and you've done it on your own terms. And just as an example, you're going to leave here today to go get on a plane because your daughter's going to be playing tomorrow morning, and you're like, I'm going to be there. That's exactly non-negotiable, right?
That's exactly right. So just to answer the question, how do you do it and how do you balance and how do you keep yourself relevant? That's a lot, right? There's a lot to unpack there. So I'll tell you, it starts with giving up on this thing called work-life balance. Just let it go. It doesn't exist. Let it go. And once you get comfortable with that and live in a world called my life is integrated, you'll figure out how to navigate and survive. You know, I tell everybody I have 3 full-time jobs and I love them all dearly. I'm in the marriage game. It'll be 22 years in August. Love my husband to death.
Yay.
I would not be here without him. I have 2 children. They're both still on the payroll, so they're still part of the 24/7 routine, okay? one is a sophomore at Howard, so I have a baby Bison. And then I have a high schooler that I'm praying will be a baby pirate. I don't know. I went to Hampton, and hopefully she'll get there. and then I have my career, right? And I am very passionate about all 3. And I've realized over time that there will be times where the priorities of each change, and that is okay. And there will be times when I have to ask for help to manage the priorities, and that is okay as well. And help comes in all forms, right? My 17-year-old helps with cooking. We all help with cleaning. I am not the only one that made the mess. So it is a family commitment. It's a lot of communication to make it happen. And it's okay, right, of asking for help and recognizing their trade-offs. Nothing comes in life without trade-offs. And you have to be comfortable with the choices you make and be okay with making a trade-off. The other thing I'll tell you about how to keep this balance and move things along is really know who you are. And you heard a lot this morning about values and beliefs. Those are your guardrails. That makes your brand, your values and beliefs. And you have to find something that you're passionate about. And when you let your passion drive, success will happen, right? And then finally, I'll leave you with this, because I think we do a lot of this. We worry about things we can't control. And we spend so much energy on things that you can't control, and we lose sight on what we can control. No one controls your day-to-day performance but you. You are in control of what you take to the office. You're in control of what you do with your passion. And you have to focus and put all that energy on things you can control. And that's how you advance yourself, right? So I tell everybody, and even when people come to my office and they have a complaint, I say, why are you worried about that? What are you going to do about it? As opposed to, what are you really good at, and how are you using that to make a difference? So spend your energy on things you can control, right? And don't spend a lot of time on things that you can't change. And you'll watch the world change around you.
Yeah, this is so important, because a lot of our culture, a theme, is we're all stressed out, right? I mean, and then that's why people look at us like you're an angry black woman, because we wear our stress sometimes on our faces. This is just the truth, right? We need to have this honest conversation, right? And so I want to just do a little bit of a quick poll, because what Lori just shared with us is a recipe for defining success for yourself. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 low, 10 high, how many people would say, I am happy professionally and personally? I'm a 10. How many people would say I'm a 7? How many people would say I'm a 5? Okay. That tells us something, right?
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, because I think I might have been a 5, a 7, or 10, at different times throughout my career. That is a reality. It will ebb and flow. That's right. Just a little bit about myself from a personal perspective. I have 4 kids. The oldest is 29, I'm about to have a grandchild. The youngest is 6. And then I have yeah, you laugh.
Got a little happy. Got a little happy.
And then I have a 13 and 16-year-old in the middle. And I might have a cape on right now, but one of the things I say is Superwoman just doesn't live in my house anymore. Because I was trying to be everything for everyone. And I found myself at times being nicer at work than I was at home, if I wanted to be honest. And you have to check yourself, because family is what matters first. And so to your point, I learned how to ask for help. Why? Because we sometimes want to do it all. We are ingrained. I was always told you work twice as hard. I was raised by my mother, who was raised by her mother. My grandmother had an influential role in my life. And it was hard for me to let go, because I wanted to be the best mom. I wanted to be the best wife. I wanted to be that best employee. I wanted to be the best boss. And so sometimes you got to relax a little bit and give yourself the freedom to say, no, that's not a priority. Because if I want to make sure that I'm at my kid's soccer game, then I might have to make a decision to leave a little bit earlier, and I'm okay with that. And that took some growth for me over time, but it was important, because that's how you get to the intersection of work and your personal life. I agree, it's not necessarily a balance, but it is an intersection that you have to carefully manage.
And it looks different for everybody. So what works for some may not work for others, and that's okay. That is okay. And then as you navigate, take time to look in the mirror and laugh at yourself, right? You have to, because that's the best thing, is personal feedback as well as seeking feedback. And you have to take time to stop and say, what happened today? Were those good decisions? Did I get off course? And if you get off course, it's okay. I haven't met one perfect person yet. Yeah, but the thing is that good dose of humility and being able to look in the mirror and have a course correction, and again, focusing on what you can change and what you're really good at. And then you'll see things happen for you.
This is good. So from a practical application standpoint, so as you build your strategy, you can't build it by yourself. So when you sit down and invest the time in yourself to get a plan together, you got to review that plan with your partner, spouse, significant others, whoever is in your life. Because if you want to change the rules of the game, you've got to get alignment. Just like we get alignment for anything else in the business world, we got to do that on our personal side as well. Years ago, Indra Nooyi, who was now the former CEO of PepsiCo, was being interviewed. And she was on a panel like this, and someone asked her this question: what is the best career advice that you have ever received. And she said, marry well. And you know, at first I was like, dang, that's so jacked. Really?
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, because I have to tell you, the advice that you all have shared, that works for men too.
Yes,
I've
it
got
does.
that situation. And it helps to marry well, and that doesn't necessarily mean what you think it means. That means marry someone who appreciates who you are. Maybe they don't understand what you do.
Amen. Amen.
But they appreciate who you are, and they understand it's a partnership and they'll work with you. I have this situation with myself and my husband. My husband has no idea what I do. My husband is not as well educated as I am. He's smart, he's just not well educated. And he is actually an artist, a craftsman, and I talk about my work and he nods and smiles and okay. And he tells me about his day, but I will do the same sort of thing. I'll say, here's the deal. I have to go to this conference. I got to finish this work tonight because it's due tomorrow and I won't be able. I need you to help me do these things, please. And he'll say, okay. And then I make a deal to say, and this weekend, on Saturday, the phone goes off. It's just us. And so you sort of negotiate for those opportunities to get that balance.
Awesome, awesome advice and counsel. Yes, yes, yes. A round of applause for that. You know, like many of you, I've been married. If I don't kill him before July 12th of this year, it'll be 39 years. But stay tuned, because you know things are subject to change, right? No, I love this man. I feel very fortunate, like you do, Lori, that I have a partner the way that you described, and Cynthia, you obviously have that too. There's another dynamic that I want to just bring into the conversation on this road to creating your own strategy for success. Many of you, if you have not broached this level of responsibility, you will have your parents living with you, or you will be taking care of your parents. Okay? And while we didn't talk about this before, it just strikes me that there's a real opportunity for us to share. I know my husband's mom has been with us 14 years. She's 92 and in good health.
That's good. Oh. But you get along, right?
I love her!
Okay.
But she's one of those crazy Creoles, you know, light high yellows that, you know, got some issues. But I love her. But the point is that if we know our value, okay, I'm going to just connect the dots back to something very practical. If we know our value, we don't feel the pressure of a stare for walking out because we have to go take care of daddy or mama or little one. But if you are not adding any value and you cannot articulate your value, do not try this at home. They will fire your ass. I'm telling you straight up. So if you really want to get a breakthrough and be able to see yourself make progress, you got to check yourself, right? And so if I were to ask you guys the question, do you have a written value proposition? How many people would say, yes, I do? 1, 2, maybe 5. Can we go for 6? Well, let's go for 6. No, oh, the hands went down. Now, wait a minute. Part of this whole gender conversation is, are you being paid fairly? Well, how are you going to know you're going to be paid fairly if you don't know what your value is? And so, Lori, I want to come back to you and ask you to tease that out a little bit more, because clearly somebody values you, and you obviously are communicating your value contribution. What's that formula about?
Yeah, so very good question. So I'll tell you from a value perspective, it starts with, like I said, knowing your boundaries, but focusing on your strengths, right? And people ask, how do you tease out roles, or how do you move around in the corporation? And I'll tell you, stop seeking titles. Stop seeking titles. Take some risk. Take some risk and be passionate about learning to grow. Mm-hmm. When you step out there to take risk, do it with what's in your toolbox. So find things that play to your strengths, right? Use your strengths. If you're in a role that uses your strengths, you will create value. Don't get lost in everything that's happening around you, right? Focus on what's going to be my best day today. What am I going to contribute to make it the best day? Mm-hmm. Everybody at the table is there because they are expected to contribute. And so to me, it's all about using your strengths, navigating roles that create value, and measuring that. And sometimes that happens to the left and to the right, and not necessarily up.
And
I want to expand on that too, because that was put on my mind last week as well at another conference I was at. And the idea was, as you're navigating that and you're thinking about taking risks, if you have good sponsors and good mentors and they see something in you that you don't necessarily think is there, so you don't believe it, you're not going to act on it, that's really devaluing yourself. If 2, 3 people say, I really see you doing this, or I really see you doing that, then it's true. And so you need to take the chance that you can develop that and move in that area, because then that just enlarges all your possibilities.
That's right. And that's, again, when the opportunity presents itself, you know, I tell my children, break it down to what's in the opportunity. What do I need to succeed, right? Do I need to be a great communicator? Do I need to have analytical skills? And that's what it's all about knowing yourself and changing the game through that and bringing value to the table, because you are the best communicator. You have great analytical skills. And that's what the role is about, right? So take those things that you're good at, incorporating into that role, and you'll start to create value.
That's good. That's good. You want to add anything more to that, Cynthia?
I think, look, one of the things we know through research is that women, particularly Black women, have been inspiring positions of power and influence for years. The issue isn't necessarily performance. The issue is having the right sponsorship. The issue is someone who's willing to open the door for you and give you that opportunity. So I do believe that performance is table stakes. I do believe that you have to raise the bar year over year. If you do the same thing you did last year, you're just meeting expectations.
That's right.
You got to figure out how to raise the bar year over year, and that's hard. Because look, I mean, you know, holidays come through, I'm like, okay, I have a break, and then I got to start right back up this. Like, we're already in March almost. But that is the reality. And so, but in addition to the performance, you need to understand who's in your corner. Who is advocating for you? What is being said when you are not in the room? Because that is how your brand is being defined. You have to know the answers to those questions. And the other complexity is many times we don't get the feedback that we need. I remember I was in a feedback session and someone said, well, she's nice. Okay, that's a good thing. What does that mean? So let's get real specific. Is it that she's not driving to consensus because she's waffling on decisions? But many times you're getting really soft feedback. You have to make sure that it's actionable and that you know what is necessary to do to get to that next level. But sponsorship is important.
That's good. That's
But
good.
I think that gets back to the courageous conversations point, because again, I'm going to tell on myself a little bit. So you get sort of benign feedback, and you do have to press for more, and you sometimes have to ask for feedback from people who you know are not necessarily going to give you positive feedback.
That's right.
So don't just go to your friends and partners. You need to go to people who are challenging to work with, people who maybe have given you a hard time in certain situations, and now when the situation is over, and get their assessment of, you know, what really happened here. I had a vice president that I had to interact with that I couldn't do anything right for this person. And this was someone I had known in a past job and had a very positive working relationship with. And finally, after about 6 months of of torture, I took him aside. I said, may I have a conversation with you, please? And he said, well, yeah, what is it, Eric? I said, you know, what's up? You know, why are we having this kind of interaction now, this tension? We've never had this before. And he said, oh, it's not about you, Eric. I don't happen to like the situation that you're having to manage and other people that are involved in that. This is not directed at you. Don't take it personally. I would never have known that if I hadn't actually had the courage to ask what's going on here. And you have to do it, of course, with a certain amount of, well, you know, don't come at people too hot, because then you just scare them.
Little humility goes a long way, right?
Yeah.
So before we open it up to you guys to take 1 or 2 questions, I just want to level set from a practical standpoint. So to do what we just talked about here, what we would recommend that you do is to go back Monday morning or whatever day it is, pull your objectives for this year. Pull them. And make sure that you can explain how when you deliver, that advances the strategic imperatives of the organization. And if they don't, re-rack it. Because we set ourselves up because we don't come with our own analysis of ourselves. Our wish for you, yes, is that you can get candid feedback. But you know what? We know when our stuff is good, right? And we know when it's raggedy.
Yeah.
Okay? In a spirit of love, right? And so let us be our biggest fan, but our worst critic. So when you go to talk about what you want, develop your narrative. Don't go in there and rely on somebody else to tell your story or even to craft your strategy. It's your life. If you want to see it change, you must change. Nobody else in the ecosystem is going to change for you, okay? So that's why we're saying you got to leave here with a burning desire, not just a commitment, okay? Because commitments wane. You got to leave here with a level of personal accountability that drives you to do something small about everything that we talked about every single day. To your point about really pulling over and saying, what did I add value? What was good about it? What wasn't so good about it? I mean, if we just give ourselves permission to do little things like that, they're going to add up to enormous benefit. So with that, we're going to take our first question. There are 2 mics in the room. And so who is we have 2 courageous, beautiful, smart, savvy women who are coming to the mic right now. Who's going to get there first?
First.
Oh, we already have one. Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am. Please tell us your name.
Sure.
Please.
My name is Mo Ivory, and I'm from Atlanta, and I'm an attorney, and I'm also a law professor. And Cindy's also my line sister. To all the deltas in the room. So I thought what you had to say, Cindy, about having people who act as your sponsors at work that open up the doors for you. Can you speak a little bit about what happens when you don't have that and you are searching for it? Is that a big signal that it's just time to go somewhere else? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I don't know if it's time to go somewhere else, but I do think you need to have that sponsorship. I think it's absolutely critical. Sometimes you have to create win-win opportunities. So I tell people all the time, my job is to make my boss look good. It's always been my role. And for other people, I found opportunities to create win-win situations for them. Because many times when you're doing something for someone else and it benefits them and it makes them look good, they have more of a vested interest in you. So I had to find opportunities. I'll give you a great example. I don't know if you know Jerry Thomas. She was a former Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. She was also the market president in Atlanta. And I was in leadership development at the time. And she didn't have a program in her market that identified diverse talent. I knew how to do that. That was LD, leadership development. I went up to her and said, you need to know the talent in this market. Your leadership needs to know the talent in this market. You know, I could build that program for you. And I built it. It wasn't my job. I went above and beyond. I did something that was, I thought, of interest to her. I, more importantly, loved what she did, and it was a space I eventually wanted to get into. We built a relationship over time. I also led with a yes. She asked me to do some things that weren't necessarily my role, but I led with a yes of taking on additional responsibility. And I think those start to cultivate relationships over time. Now, yes, if you're in a situation where you really feel like you've given it your all, you've gone above and beyond, and you still aren't getting the sponsorship, and you feel like you're getting accurate, honest feedback, you might have to reassess sort of who's on your board of directors, and decide what that means for you and your career. Because you can work hard all day, every day, but without the right sponsorship, sometimes it's really hard to move up, and research suggests that.
Just to tease that out, just in a little bit more granularity, we all have to remember this. People do business with people that they like, that they know, and they trust. A lot of times, particularly for black females, you know, we don't want you all up in our business, right? In a spirit of love, right? And so we hold back. One of the best stories that Carla Harris has ever told on stage is about how on Wall Street she wasn't making progress. She was not penetrating. She was not getting the advocacy. She was not getting the sponsorship. But once she pulled over and did what we're telling you to do, what she realized is that she wasn't giving her whole self. They didn't know her. And this is why we get that feedback like, you're aloof. Like, what does that mean? But that means I don't know you. I don't know if I could take you to the country club with me. I don't know if you could go out on the yacht. I don't know if you like art or music or what. I don't know. So we've got to give more. We've got to lead table stakes, as we've all said, performance. Okay, that gets you into the game. But what's going to make you accelerate has nothing to do with your performance. The performance is a given. Everything else is about chemistry. And so if you hear people tell you, I just don't know if she has it, check yourself. What do they know about you? Okay? All right. Yes, ma'am. We'll go over here, and then we'll come back, and then we'll be starting to wrap up.
Hi, Imani Green. I work for LinkedIn. And we recently did a research, and I don't remember the numbers. I was trying to search for it before I got up here, but I couldn't find it. But it basically showed that the growth of chief diversity officers has been significant over the last 3 to 5 years, which is amazing. It means that we're finally getting a seat at the table, which I think is phenomenal. That being said, for those of us who, one, respect the fact that there are chief diversity officers in place, but are the senior leaders that those chief diversity officers are making sure are there still seems to be this expectation that, for me, I lead external communications for LinkedIn Talent Solutions. So my job is massive already. But there seems to be this expectation that I will also still be a champion for hiring Black women, in addition to the big job that I already have. One, if anybody here is looking for a job, come see me. I am not saying that. I am saying, though, that the expectation still sometimes bothers me just a little bit, that is supposed to be my job, in addition to the big job that I already have.
To your day job.
So my question is I think for Cynthia and Eric is, one, what are your expectations of those senior leaders? And for you, Lori, how do you manage? Because that's now a fourth full-time job that you have on your plate. It's your job, your husband, your kids, and now making sure that other Black women get opportunities, which is important. But how do you manage all of that?
You want to go?
I'll start from a perspective of women, since that's the topic. So we just had our Global Women's Conference, which we do every year, and day one was about accountability. Our CEO was there for the entire day, as well as his entire leadership team, which, as I mentioned, has 6 women on it as well. Part of that accountability was talking about our role in advocating for pulling up women and bringing in talent in the company. And my point was, if not us, then who?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, 100%. And the reality is we have 40% of all of our managers at our company are women. In addition to the strong management team numbers, which are now over 45%, in addition to the over 30% of the board, in addition to over 50% of the population. So men and women are equally accountable for advancing women at our company. And women of color need to look out for each other. We need to be pulling each other up.
100%.
And so I personally feel that we all have a role in doing so. One of the other things, we also have a Black and Hispanic conference every year at our company. And Calandra Jarrell, who's up in the front row, leads those efforts for us. And one of the things that we did was we pulled our own numbers. Because it's easy to look for someone else and say, what are you doing? But I looked at the leadership in that room, and I wanted to look at their diversity. How many of you have people of color on your leadership teams? And so I think the answer is we all have a role, and although sometimes, to your point, that feels like added tax, because it shouldn't just be on me, but I personally feel like I need to bring up other women of color, just like I'm expecting my business leaders to do the same.
So I would say it is about sharing the burden. So it isn't all on one person. I would tell you that while we do have a centralized organization that focuses on diversity and inclusion for AT&T, it's really just to make sure that there's oversight, that certain things get a particular focus, get a particular impetus behind them, but we really do communicate that it's everybody's responsibility in the business. So our CDO, our head of HR, holds up a mirror to our CEO and the leadership team to say, let's look at the numbers across the company, let's look at the numbers in your organization, how are you supporting this? And I would say we've had the benefit that all of them are advocates for diversity and inclusion. All of them set that tone for their organizations. But we give every employee an opportunity to be part of that diversity and inclusion movement. We have our employee resources groups that are employee run. They get to be leaders. They get to really champion for the diversity that they support, either as a member of that community or as an ally. But there's something that everybody can do, and it's not just up to the CDO being, well, you are responsible for diversity, inclusion, success in this company. Everyone is a contributor to that.
Yeah, and I'll say I happen to be the person up here in a non-HR role. So I'm actually in a line of business role. And I am in technology, which is another industry in itself that you don't see a lot of women. And I happen to work for a company that values diversity. And it's not just the diversity on the outside, it's the diversity of what people bring to the table. And it's a thought process and diversity that my company values. And to Eric's point, my approach is not my job by myself. And I can't shoulder the burden of everybody. I can be an example to others. I hope that people see me and they understand self-accountability. And I try to do things like this to help others, right? To say that, yes, there are obvious things. And we spend too much time focusing on the obvious. And we have to take self-accountability. We have to align ourselves with companies that value diversity, first of all, right? And when you work for an organization that values diversity of thought, diversity of the makeup of the company, I think you start to see dividends pay off. This is a complex topic for us, right? And having conversations are great. I think as individuals, though, we have to always stay self-accountable, right? And I think oftentimes we look for other people to solve our problems. And while, yes, you need people helping you navigate, but you can't ever hand over your personal accountability and responsibility.
That's right.
And sometimes we get a little lost in that, right? And so you have to stick to, you'll hear my story's the same. What are you bringing to the table? And the table stakes and performance and your value, and staying true to what you believe and your passion, right? And if you're in a situation that doesn't align with your personal values and your passion and you're not doing it for the right reasons, it's okay to make a turn.
That's right.
It's okay to say, I need to go somewhere else. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I do believe it's all back into your values and aligning with a company that has the same values. And then helping others, I think that's part of my job, helping others to see that it is about self-accountability and responsibility. And I'm willing to share any of my journey and my lessons. I tell people all the time, my door's open. If you can't get on my calendar, don't take it personal. Don't take it personal, but I'll give you my personal cell phone number if you want to call me, and I'll talk to you on the ride home. Because that's the way I can help as well. Maybe I can't get you the job, but maybe I can introduce you to somebody. Maybe I can share a story with you or spend time talking to you, because all of that goes into it.
That's right. Well, we got time, unfortunately, you guys, for this one last question. And before I set that up, I just want to put a bow on this piece of the conversation. The time has come for us as women, for us as black and brown women and white women, to stop allowing the drama to suck us up. If your company is not making progress, I'm not talking about no freaking lip service. Anybody can go out there and give you some rhetoric. If you don't see the evidence, ask the deep, courageous questions. And if you don't get the deep, courageous answers, pack your bag and create your own platform and your own table. In a spirit of love, of course.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Jo Cato from Las Vegas by way of Jamaica, and that's exactly what I did. I own Periwinkle Group, and I own the company. My question is, when it comes to personal value statements, and in our environment, when we work and we have our employees, we get really busy with a massive amount of work, and we're looking at 5 to 7 value statements. How do we determine how to come up with a number of key areas that we want to zero in on, and those are our strengths, and that's where we're going to expand ourselves so we can grow within our organization? Because we hear 5, we hear 7. I can come up with 10, but there's...
You need one.
We need one, so...
You need one.
Okay.
Not 3.
Okay.
Not 5. And definitely not 10. You need one comprehensive value proposition. And it's...
Well, don't just put all 10 into one big paragraph.
No, I would agree with you on that too. Like, let's not have this 3 run-on sentences. I mean, it's not an easy response.
Right.
What I will offer, if you ping me on LinkedIn, I will share a process. Anybody who wants to get serious about their value proposition in the interest of time will honor you that way, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, so before we officially wrap up, because this conversation really could just go all day long. It would just be so cool. It's been really delightful. You guys are just amazing leaders and so transparent and so honest and so real, and I just absolutely love that. Just to put a final bow on this little experience, if there was one thing that you would want to sear into the hearts of the individuals that are in this room today, one comment, one sentence, one challenge, one quote, to help them really take that thing to the next level. Eric, what would you say?
Well, I would say to stay relevant and to be courageous.
Very good.
Yeah, I would say success is not an accident. It comes with hard work, perseverance, and sacrifice. And so be open to taking risk and removing no if you want to be successful.
All right. Cynthia?
And I would say something that my mom always told me, which is it's never too late to be what you might have been.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
right.
wonderful. That's just so good. It's heartwarming. And I would just say, if you come back a year from today and you're in the exact same situation that you're in, shame on you. Because these people gave you the formula. Go make it happen. Thank you very much.